Hello, this is Kalliopi Stara from Greece, and I'm here with you today to celebrate the World Migratory Bird Day. I will share now my screen with you, and I will tell you about the Egyptian vulture that in Greece we call it locally Cuckoo's horse. In the LIFE project Egyptian Vulture New Life, we intended an ethnographic study along the species flyway from the breeding territories in the Balkans to the wintering areas in Africa. We used interviews, a photo exercise where the informants were asked to compare Egyptian vultures with other vulture species, scavengers, and migratory species. And also we implemented market surveys in Africa where people use vulture parts for belief-based practices. Data were collected by 15 field researchers. The total number of participants in the research so far is 348 people from 22 different regions of 9 countries, and we continue to analyze data until the end of October. What we have found is that people like vultures because vultures are harmless and offer sanitary ecosystem services to humans controlling the spread of diseases. Moreover, local people think that because vultures are threatened, this attracts researchers and tourists and has an economic benefit for local communities who live in areas where also vultures live. Of course, vultures have different names. Here are translated in English. Most of the names of associated with the Egyptian vulture are related with its white color. So in North Macedonia, in the Balkans, they call the Egyptian vulture white vulture or small vulture. In Albania and Greece, we call it Cuckoo's horse. In South Italy, Pascalino, because it's related to the Easter. In Turkey, white father, Akbaba. In Egypt, Pharaoh's chicken. In Niger and Nigeria, white vulture as well. In Greece, where we are studying the folklore of vultures for more than 20 years, we have found a lot of local names, almost 25. Cuckoo's horse, Easter's horse, white chicken, cheesemaker, smelly, third liter. All these names give us a lot of information, much more wider than the official name of the bird, that is Asproparis, that means white small vulture. And also all this information give us information about the past distribution of the species. I would like to tell you a little bit more about the name Cuckoo's horse. Local people think that cuckoos are really lazy birds. They lay their eggs, as all we know, in the nests of other species. And also they are lazy to migrate alone from Africa to Europe and the other way around, so they need a horse. And this horse is the Egyptian vulture, and for this reason, local people call it Cuckoo's horse. The Cuckoo's horse protagonism passage rights as it comes in this point that the winter gives its place to spring. So it is related in the Balkan pastoral communities with children couplets that ask birds for new shoes and clothes, predictions that refer to good health, fortune, and marriage, and success in dairy products, all related with the first sight of the bird each spring. I will sing for you one of these children couplets from Zagori. Γιάτκουκ, τα λόγο με σελά, με σαμάρι, με κόκκινα ποδήματα, με πράσινες ζωνίτσες. All this relation with spring and the white color has, as a result, the Egyptian vulture to be much more positively conceptualized and perceived than rest vultures and to be locally taxonomized along with emblematic migrants like the white stork, the swallow, and the lesser kestler. On the contrary, because of the negative image that vultures have in the mass media the last years and the really poor stereotypes, they are related with really negative emotions as we speak with them and we have sometimes in mind the vulture funds or the vulture capitalism. And I don't speak about us, the people that we love birds, but for the general public. Even if we have different conceptualizations, vultures all over the world share the same threats that are poaching, poison baits, infrastructure related to energy, base believed practices in Africa, veterinary drugs that the ones that cause the vulture crisis in India, and changes in traditional animal husbandry systems and sanitary policies in Europe. All of these have as a result the old world vultures to be the group of raptors that is the most threatened all over the world, with many species to be categorized as critically endangered or endangered. And do you have a solution to all this? Not exactly, but we try with the involvement of local people in conservation, with dogs that can find poison baits, with a lot of environmental campaigns in favor of vultures and environmental education activities and projects, and all this to make the mission for the conservation of this magnificent bird from impossible possible. Thank you very much.
Welcome everybody. I'm Evgenia Panoriou, Environmental Education Officer of the Hellenic Ornithological Society. I will shortly refer to the importance of environmental education in the conservation of an endangered species in local level, using as a key example the educational program for the Egyptian vulture in Greece. To begin with, I would like to share with you our vision on environmental education, which aims to engage students in the conservation of threatened species. And if someone asks, why do we need education to solve the problem? For us, the answer is because the reasons for the Egyptian vulture population decline are strongly related to human activities. The main threats of Egyptian vulture in Greece are high mortality as a result of illegal poisoning, habitat destruction, and abandonment of traditional livestock breeding methods, with all threats being directly and indirectly related to human activities. To achieve this, we have set two basic principles. There is a need for an environmental education program that will aim to contribute to the solution of the targeted environmental issue and to ensure its long-lasting implementation. Our goal is to shape a positive attitude towards the Egyptian vulture, and secondly, to motivate children to take initiatives on spreading the message of the crucial protection needed for the last Egyptian vulture individuals in our country. As to achieve this, we have decided to include all forms of environmental education as to reach a large part of the community, meaning formal education, non-formal education, and informal education. Formal education is a more structured education which takes place in a formal setting, such as schools and universities. In our case, we designed educational material to be implemented by the teacher in the framework of the school curriculum. Additionally, we arrange every year a number of visits to the schools of the community. We plan field trips, and finally, we organize a number of educators' workshops to increase the number of teachers that know the project. Non-formal education is education that takes place in a structured setting but outside of the school curriculum. For example, NGOs' outdoor programs. Currently, we are collaborating with educational bodies such as summer camps or local museums. Informal education is a spontaneous process of learning without a formal structure. For example, one's newspaper, book readings, or traveling experiences. In this framework, we participate in or organize a number of open, usually small-scale events. The environmental education material consists of a teacher's guide, students' activities, as well as a floor game, meaning a large-scale board game. The material also includes supporting material to be disseminated to the students that participate in the project, such as pins, t-shirts, and the Mission Impossible kit. So far, we have implemented activities, indoor or outdoor, with 35 school groups, more than 1,500 students. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, all of our activities in the past year were, of course, cancelled. We also organize educators' workshops, which we find pretty useful for the promotion of the project. Although we have to mention, the Greek educational community seems to be quite overloaded with curriculum activities. I would like here to mention our insistence in the implementation of field trips, since we believe that the natural landscape can become a beneficial setting for outdoor educational activities, where teachers and students can furnish knowledge on the protected areas they are visiting and the wildlife they host. What we mostly pursue during our school visits is to help children to transform the knowledge they received and the positive attitudes they formed toward Egyptian culture to a tangible message, so they can transfer and spread it among the local community. So far, children have produced posters, protest banners against illegal poisoning, informative videos on Egyptian culture, and several crafts. We mainly promote them through our social media, but an important objective is to encourage students to promote their own projects themselves. A good example is the 5th Primary School of Meteora that promoted a video on a local student festival of digital creativity. Non-formal education creates small-scale youth groups that may strengthen the formal school project at local level. Informal education activities give us the chance to inform a great number of children about Egyptian culture and, of course, promote our school project as well. Currently, we are searching for alternative ways to maintain educational community interest on Egyptian culture, such as creating online school sessions. During the new school year, we will attempt to implement distance learning lesson plans while trying to follow COVID-19 national guidelines. I would like to thank you all and wish to have creative and unforgettable school years while trying to spread the message that through education and along the young generation, we can bring the change. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. This is Vladimir from the BSPB BirdLife Bulgaria. I'm here with you on the World Migratory Bird Day to tell you more about the nest guarding of the Egyptian vulture in Bulgaria. First, the Egyptian vulture is an iconic species in the Balkans, but unfortunately, its population has dropped from more than 700 pairs 50 years ago to only less than 60 pairs nowadays. Reasons are different, and there is a long list of threats that operate in the breeding grounds, also along the flyway and in the wintering grounds. Most of them are really severe, like the direct persecution, electrocution in collision, and poisoning. Let's have a closer look to the main mortality causes in the Balkans. On the graph in front of you, you could see that most of the causes are human-induced and related to poisoning, direct persecution, and electrocution, but also there are less important causes for mortality in the Egyptian vulture related to natural causes. So to save this iconic species, we need to address each threat and to make sure that we can tackle it in order to save the Egyptian vultures. Now you might ask yourself, how can the nest guarding help in regards to that? Well, it's really simple. The Egyptian vulture is distributed along the Balkans, but the core of the population is situated in the Eastern Rhodes Mountains in the east of the peninsula. This is the huge red circle with an arrow above. So I'll tell you more about it, more about the nest guarding and how it helps to actually decrease mortality in the Egyptian vulture and for real to save the species. So we started the nest guarding back in 2012, and just because we work with local collaborators during the breeding season. Remember, we're now here in the Balkans, and we decided that the species will benefit if we can assure more people during the fledgling period when the juveniles are really vulnerable because of the first flight, and thus ensure the fate of more juveniles. And except for local collaborators, we decided that we can count on volunteers and attract different people from different spheres of life to actually take action in our project. This is how the guarding of the Egyptian vulture started. Remember that only 1 in 10 juveniles survives till maturity. So in reality, each individual counts. Each juvenile is so important and so precious. And that was the reason we decided we have to take care of the juveniles back then in 2012, when we started the initiative called Guardians of the Egyptians. Well, I guess it might sound familiar to you. And the way to imagine it is more like this: a bunch of people who devote their time during the fledgling period when juveniles are really vulnerable, because first flight is very important and it might not end up the way you see it or the way we want to happen. So these people go and spend a lot of time along the side of the Egyptian vulture nest, trying to save if needed and observing the juveniles the whole day long. What is actually nest guarding? It's maybe the word guarding in the majority of the cases would bring in our mind a picture like this, and but there is nothing about it, and we don't use this. But nest guarding is mostly about sitting on an observation point and spending the whole day with the juvenile or the juveniles, depends on the number of the chicks in the nest, and using scopes and bins to follow their movements and their behavior, and especially the moment when they decide to leave the nest, because it's very critical moment. It's like a jump into the unknown for the birds. They have never fly before, so they don't have the proper skills and they're still not experienced. So some of them might get injured, or some of them might even die. Even it looks really easy observing the Egyptian vultures. In reality, it's different, because the guardians of the of the Egyptian vultures actually spend a whole day, many days with the chicks, which requires staring at a nest which is sometimes up to more than 2 kilometers away of the observation point. So it requires much attention and really huge effort to follow all the movements of the birds and to catch really the moment when they decide to leave the nest. And just to prove my words, I want to present you Herbert. He's from Germany and comes to help us for 4 years now. And this is what you see actually is his usual state. He sits like this for about 8 or 9 hours per day for 20 days. And he really, you can see, if you see him, he would not move for hours. So you can imagine how hard is that. Well, except for the cases when I interrupt him for a picture or when he chat with local people. Yeah, you heard right, local people. They speak different languages, but still they lead really nice and long conversation for sometimes a lot of time. But of course, it's except for the attention that the guardians should pay to the nests and to bring actually all their focus on the nests. They get the chance to spend a lot of time in nature and to enjoy the beautiful landscape and the birds and the nature itself, which is an extra value to the guardians, which they admire, of course. Here you can see what they actually see in most of the time. A nest with a bird, with a chick inside, sometimes the adults. And this is what they actually see in most of the time. And they should be very careful for the moment when this bird decides to fly off the nest. And maybe most of the people think that the first flight is like really spectacular, jumping off the cliff and then rising up in the air. But in reality, it feels more like falling than flying, because many juveniles, due to the lack of the experience, they just reach the ground, and this is where they spend a lot of time in the first days after they have left the nest. Some of them, let's say, are more talented, and they get the chance to gain experience really fast and learn how to fly just in 1-2 days. But others are not that lucky. So these are the cases when we have to step in, when our guardians who are there with the chicks decide that they can get they can't deal with the situation, the juveniles, and we have to help them. So sometimes we need to step in and to get the birds to catch it, and either get them back in the nest or put them on a high position where they can try to fly off again. In reality, you see later, we have many people involved in the nest guarding during the fledgling period, and I'm there along with the volunteers, with these people, and they're actually I work for them in most of the time, because if we need to take the chick back in the nest, they call me and say, okay, please, you should come here and get this bird inside of the nest. I say okay, and then I go and I descend to the nest and return the chick. So this is my role in this initiative. I work for the volunteers. Well, it's some of the birds are not that lucky, and unfortunately, if needed, some of them are sent to the rescue center if we decide that they are injured or there are some other problems. So not all the fellows you saw on the ground end up in the sky, but some of them end up in the rescue center. But actually, this is why the guardians are so important, because they are the people who will help the birds and make sure that they will survive and get to the center. That's why I said it really counts. Each bird counts. And just to prove you that how important it is, I will show you some graphs and some numbers to prove my words. We have guarded about 70% of the fledglings since 2012, for 9 years now. Guardians have rescued, helped to return 11 chicks in the nest and helped other birds. Remember what we said in the beginning, that 1 in 10 birds actually survives till maturity. So here is a nice proof that every bird saved counts and helps the species. Also, our guardians of the Egyptians and our local collaborators have prevented many cases of disturbances over Egyptian vulture nests. Some of the cases they prevented were fatal, like blasting with explosive part of the cliff, disturbing the incubating pairs, or the chicks during the fledging period. So we have many cases when the reaction of the volunteers, of the guardians, was really decisive for the outcome of this mission. And last but not least, during these years, more than 100 people from 10 countries have participated and brought their time and devotion to the Egyptian vultures and to the juveniles, and also help to spread the message about the conservation of the Egyptian vulture and how important it is. And guarding Egyptian vulture is not only about the birds, but it's also about people. This is a time when actually people meet, different people with different jobs. So, and they gather and help the Egyptian vulture. They spread the message to their friends, to their relatives, to the world, which of course brings more attention to the conservation of the Egyptian vulture and other birds of prey. Also, this initiative helps to build friendships, many friendships. Also, more or less brings the best of us and actually makes us to work as a team to help the Egyptian vulture, but in many cases also to help one another to deal with situations. Also, it helps to communicate the needs for conservation of the species with the local communities, which live much closer to the Egyptian vulture than ourselves, and helps us to spread the message among them, how they can help the species, how they can save the Egyptian vulture, save nature, and protect their land and their environment, which they count on it. Also, communication with local people, with the local people, brings attention to them, which is really important, and makes us visible, makes also our work visible, because guarding and protecting species is not something imaginary, but it happens for real. And if local people don't understand it, then this is a problem, and if they don't see it. Also, for the guardians, this initiative brings a lot of peace and helps them bond with nature, and this is really important for everybody. Now maybe you might ask yourself, well, how can I join in? Can I help? How I can do that? What do I need? Do I need some special abilities? Do you have some special requirements? Well, it's actually very simple and easy. First of all, you need a big heart, then love for nature. Love for the Egyptian vulture helps a lot. Of course, you have to have a fighting spirit. Did I say the love for the Egyptian vulture? Also, a bit of strength. This is all you need to apply and help save the Egyptian vulture. And of course, join our initiative, Guardians of the Egyptians. That was all. Thanks for being with me. Stay safe and see you soon.
Hello, everybody. I am Nurdan from Doğa Derneği. I work on network and capacity building for Doğa. Today, I will share our Shepherds Network and Sarımazı Raptor Count researches that we conduct under the Egyptian Vulture New Life project. Today, World Migratory Bird Day. Migration is a phenomenon and we talk about birds. Also, still some people migrate who are nomads. Can you imagine that birds and nomads may speak the same language, which is the nature's language? They both can read the weather and the landscape. They both know when to start migration. They both know where is the best place for making a yurt or a nest. Mostly in Anatolia, shepherd nomads change altitudes for finding green and fresh grass for their goats, while birds migrate between latitudes. And each year their paths cross in the steppes of Anatolia, which consist of mountain ranges, deep valleys, and steep rocks. Now I want to share a video with you. It is in Turkish language, but with English subtitles. It will explain you the relation between the shepherds and Egyptian vultures better with their habitat.
İsmim Adem Akyol. Şu an Ankara Beypazarı ilçesindeyiz. Burada Doğa Derneği uzun yıllardır küçük akbabalarla ilgili araştırmalar yapıyor. Küçük akbabalar göçmen türler. Genelde Afrika'ya göçüyorlar. Mart sonu itibariyle bu bölgeye geliyorlar. Arkamda gördüğünüz karstik yapısı biraz daha cipsli ve marna olan kistlere yuva yapıyorlar. Kuluçkaya yatıyorlar. Daha sonra Ağustos sonu gibi, Eylül başı gibi tekrar Afrika bölgesine aslında yavrularıyla birlikte tekrar geri dönüyorlar kışı geçirmek için. Biz de Afrika'ya göçmeden önceki son arazimizi yapıyoruz. Arazi kapsamında bu yüzün üzerindeki yuvayı gezerek hangi yuvada kaç tane yavru var bunları tespit etmeye çalışıyoruz. En önemli fark ettiğimiz şeylerden bir tanesi küçük akbabaların tiftik keçisi ağıllarına çok yakın mesafede yuva yaptıkları. Çünkü küçük akbabanın en önemli besin kaynağının tiftik keçisi olduğunu biliyoruz. Çünkü küçük akbabaların kuluçka döneminde tiftik keçisinin yününü kuluçkaya yatmadan önce yumurtanın altına koyup sıcak tutmasını sağladığını biliyoruz. Aynı zamanda küçük akbaba için tiftik keçisi bu alanda otlayarak onlara besin bulma ve leş bulma konusunda alan açtığını da tespit etmiş durumdayız. Ağlar ve etraflarını gezdiğimizde yuva sayılarının çok fazla arttığının farkına vardık. Çoban abilerimizle birlikte sohbet etmeye başladık. Bu sohbetimiz neticesinde onların bizlerden çok daha fazla küçük akbabaların yaşam döngülerinin farkında olduklarını, yaşamlarını tehdit eden şeylerini bildiklerini farkına vardık. Bununla birlikte bir çoban ağı kurmaya karar verdik. Biz sınırlı zamanlarda burada araştırma yapabiliyoruz. Çoban abilerimiz devamlı bu bölgede alanı devamlı geziyorlar. Küçük akbabalarla ilgili bilgilere bizden daha hakimler. Dolayısıyla çobanlarla birlikte yerel koruma çalışmaları yapmaya başladık. Bu sene küçük akbabaların gelişini çoban Bahattin abimiz haber verdi. Bahattin abi küçük akbabaları çok iyi tanıyor. Yaşam döngülerini biliyor. Ne zaman geldiklerini, ne zaman göçtüklerini, hangi yuvayı kullandıklarını, yeni yuvalarının nerelerde olduğunu. Çünkü Bahattin abi gibi insanların birçoğu yüzyıllardır bu türle birlikte aynı ortamda ve aynı coğrafyada yaşıyorlar. Tiftik geçiciliğinin ve çoban kültürünün devam etmesi gerekiyor. Çünkü küçük akbabanın yaşam döngüsü buna bağlı.
Okay. If you wish, you may find the video from Doğa Derneği page on YouTube. Beypazarı, the area that you see at the video, is in the central Anatolia region. Doğa works around this area from 2005. Also, we started to research in Mersin region, whereas by the Taurus Mountain with the Egyptian Vulture New Life project. A new region is very difficult to research, not only because of the tough landscape, but also all local groups have different cultural life. So you need time and patience to contact with people. Up to now, there are 77 stakeholders in our network, both in Beypazarı and Mersin. Our team updating the information on the network list with needed information every time in their fieldwork, and also add new contacts to the network. It is crucial to communicate with the network regularly. At the beginning, face-to-face communication is needed, but after a while, network gives us the chance monitoring the threats on the flyway, even though we are not on the field. As you know, working in the same areas for many years is very important. But with the limited resources, it is more efficient to communicate with the network from anywhere via phone call or other possible communication channels. We have to contact with the network initially, but after a while, they started to contact us to report any threats or if any information about the migration, breeding, and etc. In order to provide safe flyways, we believe Shepherd's network will enhance the necessary conservation efforts in Anatolia. Now let's talk about how we measure our conservation efforts. We are monitoring the Egyptian vulture population on their way to migration. As you know, there are some bottlenecks that migratory soaring birds pass. One of these bottlenecks is in the north of Iskenderun Gulf. It is located Sarımazı district of Adana, where we can count the migratory soaring birds breeding in the Balkans and Western Turkey. The main aim of the Sarımazı raptor count is to determine the population of the globally endangered Egyptian vulture. Since 2018, these counts are organized yearly as part of the Egyptian Vulture New Life project. Sarımazı raptor count organized in September with support of experts from BSPB and RSPB and also volunteers from different countries. Sarımazı is not only a good training for whom wants to have more experience on raptor identification and counting, and also very satisfactory event for experts. If you wish to join this spectacular gathering, you may follow Doğa's and Life Neopron's webpages and social media accounts. Thank you for listening me. Now I would like to leave you with unique views from Sarımazı.
Himena is situated at an altitude difference between 900 meters up to 1400 meters. It's located in Mount Lebanon at the gateway of Bekaa Valley and is directly frontline with Beirut. Himena stretches over 8 million meters square of area and the population roughly between 2,000 to 5,000 depending on the season. In addition to that, we are now situated at the mountain ridge of Himena Mountains. On the right side we have Sannin Mountain and on the left side we have the Shuf Mountains. I am the project manager for the Egyptian Vulture New LIFE project and as well the Hima coordinator. We are now situated at Himena, at the Hima specifically. As you all know that SPNL is the BirdLife partner in Lebanon. SPNL stands for the Society for the Protection of Nature in Lebanon. SPNL has been running a program called the Hima Approach all over Lebanon since 2004. Hima stands for a protected area in the Arabic language. It started roughly around 1500 years ago in the Arabic Peninsula because it's situated within the Islamic culture and heritage. Hima specifically means a protected area where all of the tribes have no fighting and they can graze and herd peacefully. In Himena, we have several activities which fall under the Hima concept. One of them being bird watching, hiking, canyoning, cherry picking, and herbs cultivation. %80 of all birds pass over Lebanon, and specifically on the bottleneck of Himena. Himena is situated at the center between north to south of Lebanon and west to east of Lebanon. For that matter, it is strategically a key point and key area for all of bird migration. What is the link between the Hima and bird conservation? Birds migrate over Lebanon and specifically over Himena, where they split between the Bekaa area and the Beirut area. For that purpose, the Himena community has understood the benefit of supporting and performing bird watching activities over this spot specifically. For that matter, one of the bird migration projects was regarded about the Egyptian vulture. For that matter, every migration season we have witnessed several Egyptian vultures passing over Himena while continuing to the African continent.
بلشنا بالمشروع مشروع الحما مع SPNL بال 2018. مهمتنا هي حماية الحما. بنعمل دوريات على بكرة وعشية على الصيادة. عم نلاقي تعاون كبير بس عم نخبرهم انه نحن عم نعمل مشروع وعندنا حما وفي موضوع الطيور المهاجرة بدنا نحميها عم يتوافق دغري عم بيتقبلوا الفكرة وعم بيساعدونا. حتى في صيادة بنعرفهم باعوا بواريدهم واشتروا فيها كاميرات ونوادير وعم يجوا يشتغلوا معنا بالمراقبة الطيور هون بهيدا المركز أكتر شيء. أنا صراحة كنت صياد ومعروف هون بالضيعة إنه أنا بروح بتصيد وبروح بكل المواسم بتصيد، بس من وقت ما اجوا SPNL وبلشوا يدربونا وبلشوا يعرفونا على الطيور ويعملوا لنا دورات تغيرت وجهة نظري من صياد لمراقب للطيور.
SPNL has done several IBA studies and KBA studies, and we were able to establish 15 IBAs located in Lebanon. The first Hima was established in 2004. In 2006, BirdLife International adopted the Hima concept, which led to the establishment in 2020 to 25 Himas. In 2018, SPNL won the Midori Prize for the revival of the Hima approach. In that sense, having 25 Himas linked to one another will lead to a Hima for peace and Hima to a cultural diversity and bird migration into where they can be preserved. The Hamat Hima program involves trainings for the local community members. These trainings range from bird watching, basic photography, first aid, camping, hiking, canoeing, canyoning, trekking, communication skills, team building skills. These trainings support the community members to find part-time jobs and to work within the Hima. Further to that, these trainings can be moved from one Hima to another depending on the biodiversity present in the area and the environment.
We work on providing outdoor activities for the people in Hammana, in hiking, canyoning, trekking and bird watching, and implementing awareness session about the nature conservations and birds in Lebanon.
We are now at the Hima farm. The Hima farm basically is a place where we plant natural crops and we grow them and sell them afterwards. These natural crops do not affect the bird migration present in Hammana, and in another sense, these natural crops can be sold in the Souq al-Hima or the Hima market.
Hi everyone, I'm Chloe Porfi, working for the Sahara Conservation Fund and partner of the Egyptian Vulture New LIFE project in Niger. SCF is an organization dedicated to conserve the wildlife of Sahara and of bordering Saharan grasslands. We're currently working in Niger, in Chad, in Morocco, and we are also present in the States and in France where we have our headquarters. So today I will shortly present the work we've been doing in the framework of the Egyptian Vulture New LIFE project, and more precisely the education and awareness program led on vultures. So here is a little presentation. Here we go. Okay, so as in most African countries, vultures used to be widely present in Niger, but their population have declined significantly. With SCF, we started in 2008, monitoring lappet-faced and rupert vultures nests before extending our activities to other areas and vulture species. So actually the work on EV started only in 2015, which is quite recent. In this area, as you can see on the map, called the Cuckoo Massif in the region of Zinder. There we can find Palearctic migrant and also resident EV, as you can see on the picture. An investigation on threats was undertaken and showed that illegal killing for use in traditional practices should be considered as the main threat to vultures in Niger. You can see on those pictures, direct evidences were collected, and vulture parts and carcasses, including EV carcasses, were found for sale, mainly on traditional eagle stands, and it for disease treatment, protection, or sometimes gain of power, those kind of beliefs. So there is a whole network in operation, and Nigeria, as a neighboring country where those practices are widespread, plays an important role in filling the circuit. So based on those results, we started raising awareness among the main stakeholders of this traffic. So this will be the hunters and the traditional healers. So most of them have already noticed that vultures were disappearing, which they found quite worrying as they do understand the ecological and sanitary role they provide. However, not all of them knew that vultures were protected and that it was illegal to kill and sell them. They also had limited knowledge on the different vulture species we could find in Niger, and they will often make them up and have wrong beliefs about them. Also, our objective was to stimulate and encourage those people to take action to protect vultures while teaching them on the different vulture species. So we went through most of the markets of the designated areas within the Zinda and Maradi region. I will show a map later on. To meet most of the traditional healers and talk with them so that they will understand what consequences their activities have and commit not to sell vultures anymore. So we will also ask them with like plant-based alternatives they could be used instead of vulture parts. And it was very important that the idea will come from them, and that we only act as a kind of moderator. Also, a very close contact was established with the traditional healer chief, and his complication was very crucial to spread the message among all of them. So also up to now, most of the traditional healers in Zinda and Maradi, so those regions in yellow on the map, were met various times with like individual meetings or focus groups. We also produce communication materials that we can see in small picture, such as leaflets summarizing the main vulture species breeding in Niger, as well as top facts and how they can identify them. We also highlighted the protected status and the legislation that is applying to the species. We also gave them T-shirts and similar products with a navy on it to highlight that we were working for the same cause in the same team, if I can say so. So a similar work has been started with Vultures, and that way we hope they will significantly reduce vulture hunting, but also discourage any hunters or traditional healers coming from Nigeria or other neighboring countries to get vultures in Niger. We have also been closely working with wildlife authorities and involving them in most of our activities. For example, we're organizing a meeting this week actually with the hunters, traditional healers, and the wildlife authorities. It's very important so that they understand that in addition to the environmental impact their activities have, what they're doing is illegal, and then they can get into trouble if they don't stop doing it. Also, so a large communication with a broader spectrum, if I can say so, has also been led in key locations, such as the Cuckoo Massif, which I was telling you about before, because it's home to EV, but also to repair vulture populations. So it happens that lots of people from the surrounding villages did not know about those populations breeding in those nearby fields that we can see on the background of the picture. One of the main groups of people we've been focusing on was children. So most schools in Niger, mainly in rural areas, are basic and lacking resources, and the education level is often very low. So we started working with primary schools to develop among the children a positive attitude towards wildlife and familiarize them with vulture while providing a favorable education context with basic teaching materials, being school books, as you can see the picture, posters, or coloring pictures for the younger kids, notebook for the teachers, etc. So a follow-up was also implemented, and at the end of the year, the best pupils were rewarded. It's important to have such a system to keep the children motivated and also enhance our message. We also organize side activities with rural professional school, for example, where the children from the swimming class had to represent a vulture with needlework. Also, because we have an ostrich breeding facility in the same area, we will find the opportunity of having children visiting the center to tell them about ostriches, but also vultures, and give them small cards, for example, with a picture of vultures so that they could keep with them or put in their room. So we're leading different sensitization activities, which we try to keep in phase with the local context, so that children will be acknowledged of vulture and caring about those birds. So yeah, basically that's the work we've been doing. It's of course too soon to monitor the direct impact on the vulture population in the targeted area, but we could notice that more and more people will start like really to pay attention to those birds, which is very good. And there is still a long way to go, but we're confident that by interacting with those key stakeholders, we can make a difference. Thank you.